The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are taking a look at Devil Reef, the second Mythos pack in the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle. FFG dropped a preview of the Mythos pack on Tuesday, late Tuesday. So we are going to take a look at that today. Another very exciting scenario in this campaign. I am really beginning to look forward to this campaign. First, we do visit Innsmouth, and now we're off to another iconic location in Devil Reef. And I like the look of the mechanics in this one, so we are going to take a look at the scenario itself, as well as some of the encounter cards that were spoiled, and we'll wrap it up with a look at the player cards. And they spoiled a whole bunch of them. 7 player cards in total were spoiled in one way or another, so we are going to take a look at those to wrap up this look at Devil Reef. Before I get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support, and Nate Lost in Time and Space for the awesome new intro. The Arkham Horror LCG community is amazing, and these people have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these Mythos pack previews. If you'd like to get your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, donate $2 a month, and I would be more than happy to add your name to this list and show my appreciation for your tremendous support. Thank you very much again to everyone who supports this channel. It means a great deal to me. Let's get started here. We are headed off to Devil Reef, which, as you may remember from the short story Shadow over Innsmouth, the Devil Reef is located off the coast of Innsmouth, and it is inhabited by the evil Deep Ones, and it is torpedoed by the U.S. government after the revelations of the Shadow over Innsmouth story. We are headed there, but we are having a flashback. This is a new narrative technique being explored in this campaign. The events that happen at Devil Reef actually happened before the events of the first Mythos pack, but so we are having a flashback. It reminds me of the old Ministry song. And we are going to go to Innsmouth, and then we're going to go to Devil's Reef in a flashback, and then who knows where we go from there. This is the game's first vehicle scenario. We get to ride on a vehicle, that being the fishing vessel, that will take us out to Devil Reef. There is a scenario following this one that will also feature vehicles. Some of the spoilers are out there if you know where to look for those vehicles. I'm not going to discuss them today, since I'm sure FFG will be releasing a preview for that Mythos pack in short order, and we will talk about them then. But this is the first scenario featuring a vehicle, and we will take a look at the mechanics involved in that. Devil Reef is made up of a bunch of scattered islets, each pocked by tidal tunnels opening into unfathomable depths. So it appears that the way the locations are going to work in this scenario is you're going to have ocean locations, say, on the one side, and then from those ocean locations, you will begin to explore the tidal tunnels and unfathomable depths, which are located in decks that are set aside at the start of the game. So it looks like you'll have one deck for the tidal tunnels and one deck for the unfathomable. I'm not going to be able to pronounce the depths. Let's just call it the depths, because I'm not going to be able to pronounce unfathomable very easily this video. So we'll have the tidal tunnels and the depth locations set aside. And as you explore the ocean locations, you will be drawing those tidal tunnel and depths locations and putting those into play as you would go along. Your goal in this scenario is to find the cult artifacts represented by key tokens. You are investigating the goings-on of the evil esoteric order of Dagon, and so you need to find... apparently the esoteric order has hidden something down in the depths, So you will need to find what that is in this flashback. So you will enter the tunnels at some point and the depths and find the keys and hopefully reveal the secret of what the Esoteric Order hid down in the watery depths of Devil Reef. We need a boat to get to Devil Reef, however, and that will be the fishing vessel. It is a relatively straightforward card. It has the vehicle trait. And while you are in this vehicle, treat your location as if it was unflooded. That could be extremely important, as you may remember from the Innsmouth Conspiracy Deluxe expansion that will be coming out here, could be in just a couple weeks. Locations can be unflooded, partially flooded, and fully flooded, and there are tokens in the Deluxe expansion to represent that. If you are at partially flooded or fully flooded locations, really bad things can happen to you. You can begin to take damage. Some enemies get more powerful. So hanging out at partially flooded and flooded locations is not a good idea if you can help it. So as long as you are on your fishing vessel on the ocean, your locations are treated as unflooded. So if there are any cards in the encounter deck that become more powerful while at partially flooded or unflooded fully flooded locations, then this will protect you from them. Now, investigators may embark or disembark from a vehicle at their location as a free action. So you may come and go from the boat as you please. I'm kind of curious about the whole free action thing, because I'm not sure that's actually in the rule book. Usually it's a free triggered ability, but I could see why they wouldn't say free triggered ability, because then you could exit and enter the boat pretty much at any time. But maybe that's just the wording that they're using in the preview article. Maybe it is a free triggered ability that you can only use during your turn or something like that. But I don't think we really have the concept of free actions in this game. So that might just be, sometimes the preview articles make mistakes in terms of the actual mechanics of the game. So we shall see, but it is free. Regardless of how it works, it's going to be free to enter and leave the boat. So as long as you're on the boat, you're not affected by the flooded status of the location, but as soon as you venture off the boat, you will be subject to it. Now, as an action, you may trigger the boat. The fishing vessel has an action that you may trigger to move it to a connecting location. So that's how you move from one ocean location to the other. And you will explore the ocean locations, which will lead to the tidal tunnels and then the depths. So as an action, you may move the fishing vessel. As many investigators, you can put all the investigators on the fishing vessel. So if you're playing solo, it's just you. But if there are 4 players, you can load up everybody on the fishing vessel and then move it to a connecting location. So you're basically moving everybody for just one action, which is going to be extremely efficient, which is probably a good thing, because it sounds like the map in this one is going to be fairly large with all of the locations that you're going to have to explore. So being able to save some actions on moving around will be very important. What else do we know about moving? So yeah, I guess you could... If you're pressed for time, you could leave an investigator at one ocean location and then move the fishing vessel to another location and drop off some investigators there to do their work there. So you could split the party. I'm not too sure if that will be a wise idea because swimming from one ocean location to another will take your entire turn. So if you split the group up, and say leave one investigator at one ocean location and the rest of the group is at another, if that investigator gets into trouble and needs to leave, it will take them a full turn to get to that other location. So that is, in terms of efficiency, that is pretty bad. So I think you're going to want to try to stick together as much as possible, or at least have somebody on the boat who can move it around and pick up and drop off investigators at the various ocean locations. without forcing them to swim, which will really slow them down. Now, the question I had when I read the preview article is, can enemies sink the fishing vessel, which would be disastrous, I think, for the investigators should the fishing vessel get stuck. Which I guess if the enemies could sink the fishing vessel, potentially you could strand the investigators at ocean locations, and then of course they would only have the option of swimming between them, which would be really, really inefficient and awful. The fishing vessel does not have stats, though. It does not have health or sanity, so I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't seem like enemies will be able to attack it, which is probably a good thing, but who knows what treacheries are lurking in the encounter deck. I expect there to be all sorts of awful weather-related treacheries that may affect the fishing vessel. Perhaps treacheries that send it off to a connecting location, like perhaps a storm of some kind that forces the vessel off course, or who knows? One treachery that, theoretically they could create a treachery that could sink the boat, but that seems pretty cruel and definitely a must cancel. So we shall see if there are. I expect there to be some treacheries in the encounter deck that will affect the fishing vessel in some way. So be prepared for that. Theoretically, investigators could get stranded if the fishing vessel is put off course and whatnot. So we shall wait and see about that. This is not the first time that FFG has created a marine scenario like this for the Lord of the Rings LCG. They did an entire cycle, nautical themed cycle. I believe it was the Storm Chaser cycle, where the investigators visited various aquatic locations, both above and below the water. So I am sure that designer Matt Newman is using the experience that he gained from designing those scenarios and applied them to designing this one. So I'm looking forward to seeing how whether he has indeed taken any of that expertise he learned in designing those scenarios and applied them to this one. So overall, the fishing vessel is very straightforward. It doesn't have stats. It doesn't have a lot of text on it, and that is what we will be used to ferry around. That's what the investigators will be using to ferry themselves from ocean location to ocean location, and hopefully the encounter deck will not mess with it too badly. We have a couple of examples of ocean locations that were included in the preview article. I suspect that the ocean locations are going to form sort of a maze-like structure. We saw this in the Into Deep Mythos pack preview. The location layout was sort of like a maze that you had to weave your way through, with various barricades blocking off streets, preventing your movement. In this case, I think we're going to have, on the one side, we're going to have the ocean locations, and then on the other, we're going to have the tidal tunnels and then the depths. So you'll probably have to move up and then over and then back and then down and to find the various keys and clues that you need in order to advance the act deck. So I suspect that also these ocean locations are going to be, there might be one central ocean location, and then the rest of them will be placed on the table at random, so you don't know what is what. So it's each game could be an entirely new adventure as you explore the ocean and try to figure out which is the key ocean location that you need to be at. That'll increase the replayability of the scenario quite a bit if those ocean locations are entering play or are placed in a sort of random, placed randomly on the table. So you're going to need, I think, because of the size of the map and the location layout, Cards that improve or make your movement efficient, cards like Shortcut and Pathfinder and stuff like that, and other movement-related cards could be very important. The fishing vessel throws a bit of a wrench into those cards since, say, if you play Shortcut, or you can't really play Shortcut if you're on the ocean. You can play it if you're at, say, one of the tidal tunnels and you need to move to a depths location or something like that. But so the whole fishing vessel will throw a bit of a wrench into that, I think. But I mean, if the map is large, having access to cards that improve your mobility will be very important to getting around, because I think you've got quite a bit to do in this scenario. You need to find various keys, and you need to discover a fair number of clues, which will take time. Now, as you may notice, that neither of these ocean locations has clues on them. So based on these ones, I think it's likely that, perhaps none of the ocean locations have any clues on them. So you will have to go into the tidal tunnels and the depths in order to discover the clues that you need in order to advance the act deck. So while you can stay on your fishing vessel to avoid partially flooded and fully flooded locations, you are going to have to leave the ship at some point to get the clues you need. You cannot just stay on the boat. So that will, of course, open you to all the machinations of the encounter deck, as if you happen to be at partially and fully flooded locations and you pull the wrong encounter card, you could be in deep trouble. So that is something to keep in mind. So no clues on these two ocean locations. Average and above average shroud values, which don't necessarily matter all that much if there are no clues there. But we shall see what the other ocean locations hold. Now, the Hidden Cove, as you can tell by the location indicators up in the top left-hand corner, the Hidden Cove and the Salt Marshes are connected to each other. And then if you look at the location connectors on the bottom of the card, you can see that both of these cards are connected to two different locations. There's the blue triangle and the purple star, and then you've also got a red square. Now, the Salt Marshes and the Hidden Cove are both connected to the purple triangle, or the blue triangle, sorry. So that's probably another ocean location, and I expect the star and the square to also be ocean locations. So that leaves us with 5 ocean locations, and I think they are ocean locations since the tidal tunnels locations appear to enter play at random from the deck, so they will not have location icons on them. So we're looking at least 5 ocean locations, and possibly more than that. And then the locations, in the tidal tunnels deck and the depths deck will be entering play at random. Hidden Cove has the ocean and island traits. It has the forced effect. After you reveal Hidden Cove, put 1 set-aside tidal tunnel into play adjacent to Hidden Cove, then put 1 set-aside unfathomable depths into play adjacent to that tidal tunnel. So this seems like a very good location to find. Perhaps it's the key ocean location you want to find, since you get to both place a tidal tunnel and a depths location into play. So you're getting 2 locations that potentially you need. So this seems like a very good place to find. Both of those, the tunnel and the depths, entering play at random from the deck, so you won't know what you're going to get. The Salt Marshes enters play fully flooded, so it's a good idea to be on the boat while you are at Salt Marshes. It has the action, if you control the purple key, look at the revealed side of any tidal tunnels or unfathomable depths location in play. Group limit once per game. So this is very handy if because there are going to be a lot of locations on the table. If you do have that purple key, you can perhaps spy out the location that you need before you go searching for it, so you can just go directly there rather than having to check a whole bunch of locations at random and hope for the best. This gives you a chance to identify that location right off the bat. Now, you do need the purple key, and the preview article does not tell us how we get said purple key. So we will see how that works. And it also has a forced effect. After you reveal salt marshes, put one random set-aside tidal tunnel into play adjacent to salt marshes. So this is slightly different. The wording is slightly different than Hidden Cove. Hidden Cove just says put a set-aside tidal tunnel into play. And this one says put one random set-aside tidal tunnel. I don't know if that makes a big difference. I kind of assume that the Hidden Cove should say a random tidal tunnel as well, but you never know. So, but judging from what we know about how the locations work in this scenario, there is a deck of tidal tunnel locations and depths locations. So it would seem that both should be entering play at random, so you don't know what you're going to get. So we have some ideas to how the location mechanics are going to work in this game. You are going to have to go to the ocean first, then to the tidal tunnel, and then probably to the depths from there. And I would assume that both all of the tidal tunnels and unfathomable depths are fully flooded, or at least partially or fully flooded. It doesn't seem, judging from Hidden Cove and salt marshes, not all of the ocean locations will be fully flooded. So if you're on your fishing vessel at Hidden Cove, cards that affect partially or fully flooded locations will not affect you there, but they will at salt marshes. So that is what we know about how the locations will be set up. Now, we do have an example of a tidal tunnel or unfathomable depths location. We don't know which. The preview article doesn't specify which one it is. I suspect that it's a depths location because it seems fairly important. It is the Cyclopean Ruins. It has a 3-shroud location with 1 clue. It has the cave and Iha Intlai traits. This location enters play fully flooded, which again makes me think that most of the tidal tunnels and depths locations will be partially or fully flooded. It has the forced effect. After this location is revealed, place the set-aside white key on it. So far we've got a white key and a purple key to deal with. And it has the free triggered ability, if investigators at this location control both the red key and the yellow key, and spend 2 clues per investigator as a group, take control of the white key and read flashback 10 in the campaign guide. So now we need, there's a purple key, there's a white key, a red key, and a yellow key. So that's, what are we at? 4 or 5 keys at this point that we want to find during this scenario. Now, during in the preview article for the Innsmouth Conspiracy Deluxe expansion, they did say that some of the keys are in there as bonuses. So you don't necessarily need to collect all the keys in a scenario in order to beat it. Some of the keys are sort of like unlock bonus features if you can find them. So we don't know if all of these keys are absolutely necessary, but it will be that's quite a few. I mean, between the purple, the white, the red, and the yellow, that's 4 keys that you need to find. And depending on the number of locations, you may have to explore quite a bit in order to find all of those keys. And then you're going to need 2 clues per investigator as a group. In order to spend those, we've already seen that there are no clues on the ocean locations, so you will need to go into the tidal tunnels and the depths to get those clues. Fortunately, 2 clues isn't too bad. There is one on Cyclopean Ruins, so hopefully you won't have to spend a great deal of time underwater, because you will certainly be opening yourself up to terrible things the longer you stay at those partially or fully flooded locations. And again, you'll notice that the Cyclopean Ruins doesn't have any location connectors either in the top left or the bottom of the card, which makes me think because they are just randomly selected from the tidal tunnels and depth decks, that you'll simply put them into play, say next to the. So you'll have one location here and one location here, and then you'll just go across. So you'll have to go up and down and across to explore all of these locations. So that's how the location mechanics are going to work. The Innsmouth Conspiracy so far seems like it has it's going heavy on the locations. So you will definitely need to. That's going to take up a lot of move actions. So cards that speed up your movement will be helpful. So yeah, you will need to explore the tidal tunnels and depths in order to collect the clues and the key tokens necessary to advance. Now, there's nothing because there are no location connectors on Cyclopean Ruins. I assume that in the rules supplement, or perhaps on the agenda card or act cards, there will be some sort of mechanic that allows investigators to move between the tidal tunnels and depths locations. Probably just say, tidal tunnels and depths locations are connected to each other or something like that. Although I think the wording would have to be fairly specific to prevent you. I mean, maybe you can move between. I don't know whether you could move between tunnels, like 2 tidal tunnel locations or 2 depths locations or not. We'll have to wait and see. It's not clear from the preview article whether you'll be able to do that or not. And how much, if it takes you a full turn to swim from one ocean location to the other, how long will it take you to get from one tunnel or depth to another tunnel or depth, if that's even possible? So that could take up a lot of time. So it may be better just moving back to the boat and sailing to another ocean location. We shall see. The investigators better move fast. I think there is going to be some sort of time limit on this scenario, judging by the Terror of Devil Reef. It is the Grasping Abomination. This guy will come out at some point during the scenario to harass the investigators. He's got 3 fight, 6 health, and 3 evade. He's a monster, and he is elite. He spawns at the fishing vessel's location. He has the Hunter Massive and Retaliate keywords. The Terror of Devil Reef cannot enter cave locations, and the Terror of Devil Reef gets +3 health per investigator. It's worth a victory point, and it hits for 2 health and 2 horror. 2 damage and 2 horror. So the first question is the Terror of Devil Reef lurking in the encounter deck, or does it spawn when the agenda deck advances? I suspect that it is the latter. Which sort of, I think there will be some sort of time limit as the agenda deck advances. If you take too long, eventually this guy pops out of, he'll be placed into play, and you will need to either fight or evade him. Maybe he's added to the encounter deck at some point during the scenario. But I don't think he would start in the encounter deck at the beginning, because man, if you pulled this guy first turn, you would be in a very tough spot. He's pretty beefy. He's got 9 to 18 health depending on the player count. So 9 health is not nothing for a solo investigator to take down. That's going to take. If you're doing 2 damage per action, you can do, say, 6 a turn. So it's going to take you a couple turns at least to take this guy down if you're playing solo. And he does hit pretty hard for 2 damage and 2 horror. So this guy he's trouble. If he hits the table, he is definitely going to be difficult to deal with, especially for investigators who don't have a ton of combat or evasion. Now, he does have the Hunter Massive and Retaliate keywords, so it's worth revisiting what the massive, especially the massive keyword. We understand Hunter He will move if you somehow evade him. He will chase you and retaliate if you fail an attack against him. He will attack you back and hit you pretty hard. But the massive keyword is worth reviewing, especially in light that you will be on a fishing vessel. And so I took a look at the massive rules just to try to figure this out. First off, because he is massive, he's not engaged. He's not in any investigator's threat area, but he is engaged with all investigators at his location. So if the enemy phase rolls around and this guy gets to attack, he hits every investigator at his location for 2 damage and 2 horror. That is pretty punishing, especially if you take some damage and or horror while exploring the tidal tunnel and depths locations, because say you end up drowning underwater, this guy will come to finish you off. So some of the investigators that only have 5 health or 5 sanity will not be able to stand around very long and take hits from this guy. So the other question I had was, how does he interact with the fishing vessel if you move it away from him? And he is not, still ready, because with the massive keyword, if you move away, he does not follow you. So if you are on an ocean location and say you swam away from him for some reason, the terror would hit you for an attack of opportunity, but he would not follow you to the next location. So what happens if you move the fishing vessel with, say, 3 or 4 investigators on it? Well, I think how it will work is because one investigator has to trigger the action on the fishing vessel, the terror will attack that particular investigator, and then the fishing vessel will move away. The terror will not follow it, and it will not attack everybody on the fishing vessel, because it will only take an attack of opportunity against the investigator who triggered the fishing vessel, unless, of course, the terror is exhausted. So I think that's how it works. We'll see when we do get the vehicle rules in the rules supplement, but I'm fairly certain that is how it will happen. So if this guy popped at your location and you can't evade him, or don't want to evade him, and you just want to run in your fishing boat, one of the investigators will need to take the action on the fishing vessel to move it, and that investigator will be the one who will take the attack from the terror. And the terror will stay put until, of course, the enemy phase, when it will hunt you down and dish out even more punishment. Fortunately, the terror does not have his fight and evade values are fairly average at 3 apiece, so he's not very hard to hit, and he's not very hard to evade, at least for investigators with, say, 4 or 5 in combat or agility. He is manageable from that aspect. The big problem is that he does have at least 9 health in solo and possibly 18 in was that right? 18? Yes, 18 in a 4-player game. So he's if you're decent in combat and decent in evading, you can manage this guy. But it will take, if you decide to kill him, it's going to take you some time to do it. So you need to be able to withstand his attacks, which you will likely take. Now, the other thing worth mentioning, because he is massive and because he cannot enter cave locations, if this guy appears and you happen to be on the fishing boat and you can get into a cave location, you can move there and he will not be able to follow you. Of course, moving into the cave will cost you an attack of opportunity from this guy, but at least when the enemy phase rolls around, he will not be able to hunt into the cave and get you there. Now, I don't know what the victory conditions are for this scenario, if you have to get on the fishing boat or the fishing vessel and flee the scene, or whether once you get a certain number of keys and or clues, you can simply advance the act deck and win, regardless of whether you are at a tidal or depths location or the surface. We shall see. So who knows? But at least while you're underwater, this guy won't be harassing you. But I am sure the encounter deck has plenty of other deep ones and other terrible treacheries to harass you while you were underwater. The preview article makes it very clear that the tunnels and depths are swarming with deep ones. So I expect there to be a fair few enemies in this scenario, especially while you're underwater. So you may avoid this guy, but the agents of the Mythos will track you down. So this guy might be the least of your worries if you're worried about enemies. The preview article spoils no less than 7 player cards. Man, I think most Mythos packs contain 12 player cards, so that's more than half the pack has been spoiled already. We will take a look at the cards in the card fan first, because there are a couple of cards that we can't really see, but I think we know what they do. Blood Pact and Keen Eye. As you may remember, we saw, I believe it was Higher Education, Streetwise, and Scrapper. All were released in the Blood on the Altar Mythos pack way back when in the Dunwich Legacy cycle. Now we are seeing the other 2 that were missing from those, Blood Pact and Keen Eye. All of the cards that were released in the Investigator starter decks lost the permanent keyword, and so you could include them in your deck, but you just had to take the time to play them. Now, Blood Pack and Keen Eye both appear to lack the permanent keyword, which is to be expected. Blood Pact is actually slightly weaker than its counterpart from the Blood on the Altar. In this, the level 0 version, you only get +2 willpower. In the other version, you get +3. So it is slightly weaker. Blood Pact has never seen a lot of play. It's one of those cards that if you want to use it, you really have to build around it. And a lot of people just don't want to bother with it because it does involve adding Doom to the table. And cards that do that are, unless you've got a way to mitigate adding all that Doom to the table, it can be very risky to play them. Now, I have used the upgraded version of Blood Pact in decks, and it's worked pretty well. I haven't liked it, but I mean, you do have to be very careful with how you use it, because if you can't use it too often, or you end up with a ton of Doom in play, and the agenda deck rockets forward, leaving you with precious little time to get anything done. As for Keen Eye, I suspect, it also lacks the permanent keyword, but its power level seems to be on par. That should be I have level 0 version written, but it should be the level 2 version from Blood on the Altar. The power level seems the same. I think Blood on the Altar, it was +1 combat or +1 intellect. I can't imagine it being better than that, so I assume it will just be +1 and +1. So it will probably stay the same. Again, Keen Eye, I've played it in a couple of decks playing solo if I've needed the extra investigation. It can come in handy if you've got a few resources to spare and you just want to drop down. You need a little extra boost during an investigation action or a treachery, but yeah, it's not. I would certainly not consider it a staple of Guardian decks these days. The other card in the fan that we can look at is Truth Beckons. It is the Seeker event. It costs 1 resource. It has the Insight trait. It's got an Intellect and Agility skill icon. You can play it only if you are not engaged with an enemy. So it's similar to some of the other movement cards in the Seeker card pool, namely Pathfinder, which you can only trigger if you are not engaged with an enemy. It lets you take a move action and choose an unrevealed location. Move 1 location at a time along the shortest path towards that location until you enter that location. End this effect if you reveal a location, if an enemy engages you, or if your movement is blocked. So the first thing to note about this card is that Joe Diamond can put it in his hunch deck, and because it has the insight trait, and if he does so, he can play it for free. Norman Withers can also play it for free if it happens to be on the top of his draw deck, because it is an event. This card basically allows you to teleport to an unrevealed location, which is somewhat unusual. Most of the movement-related cards only let you move to revealed locations. So this lets you target an unrevealed location. However, the path to that unrevealed location has to be clear of all obstacles, which includes other unrevealed locations, unengaged enemies that might engage you along the way, or in the case of the Into Deep scenario, any of those barricades that would prevent you from moving from one location to another. So as long as the path is clear, this has really unlimited potential in terms of movement, if and only if your way is clear. So I think it could be invaluable during the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle, which does seem to feature very large maps with a lot of locations on them. A lot of movement actions will be required to move from one place to another. If Into Deep is any indication, you've got quite a few movement actions to do in that one. And Devil Reef looks like you're going to have a lot of movement to do as well. So this could come in very handy during this cycle, and as well as other scenarios such as the Midnight Masks, a Phantom of Truth, or the Pallid Mask, which also feature fairly large maps with a lot of locations on them. As long as those most of those locations are revealed, then the Truth Beckons could be coming quite in handy. Say if you're playing something like the Midnight Masks and you were sitting at your house, and then have one investigator run all the way up to Northside on his turn, and then you could play the other investigator could play the Truth Beckons to move there in one action. And normally it would take you 1, 2, 3 actions to get to Northside. So yeah, or even downtown. What's downtown? 1, 2, 3. So 3 actions. This would save you a pile of actions. As long as that, or no, if you wanted to move to Easttown, so say Northside was revealed, and then you wanted to move downtown, you could move 4 times for one action, which is pretty good. As long as somebody clears the way for you, it could also be very good. Thinking about like something like the Doom of Estley. If there were no enemies between you and the exit, this would get you there really. Oh, you need unrevealed location. Okay, so it's not going to work in Doom. My mistake. It needs to be unrevealed. So as long as you've got somewhere you need to go that is unrevealed, this will get you there. So yeah, the unrevealed kind of doesn't make it quite as, I guess it's good sort of, it's not good in the early game because most of the locations on the table will be unrevealed. So they will stop you from getting where you want to go. Mid game is probably the best time to play this, when the board has opened up a little bit, and but there are still some unrevealed locations on the table. And then probably by the end game, when everything is revealed, this is a dead draw. So yeah, it's kind of situational. I think there are definitely scenarios where it will be useful, but I could also see if you just draw this at the wrong time, you could end up, if you draw it too early, you won't really have a good location to play it, because if you end up just say moving to the location right next to you, you really haven't saved yourself any time, and you've spent a resource and a card to do it. So yeah, if you draw it too early, you could be, it may not be that good. And then if you draw it too late, it might not be that good. So there's that sweet spot, I think, right in the middle of the game when a card like this could really shine. But We'll see. I mean, the Seeker class has fantastic movement cards in it, Shortcut and Pathfinder being the two chief ones. So it may be difficult for this card to find a slot in decks that are using that. I certainly would play Shortcut and Pathfinder in all of all of the Seeker decks that I play most of the time. So a card like this, I think, may have trouble cracking the Pathfinder Shortcut monopoly on movement in the Seeker class. But who knows? We'll see what the Innsmouth Conspiracy has to offer. If the maps continue to be large, then this card could definitely find a home. Moving on to Manipulate Destiny. This is an interesting card. It is a neutral event, costs 1 resource and costs 2 experience points. It has a wild skill icon on the spell trait. You reveal tokens from the Chaos Bag until you reveal a cursed, auto-fail, blessed, or elder sign token. And then if you revealed a cursed or auto-fail token, you deal 2 damage to an enemy at your location. That is testless damage, which is always is the best kind, without having to make a skill test. But if you reveal a blessed or elder sign token, you heal 2 damage from an investigator or ally asset at your location, and this does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So there is a lot going on with this card. It is a neutral spell event, which I think they are quite rare. I think the last one we had was Lucid Dreaming, I believe, was a spell from the Dream Eater cycle. Neutral spell, it synergizes with a whole bunch of Mystic cards. You've got Arcane Initiate, Diana Esperance. You could stack it on her. You could retrieve it from your discard pile with Divermus Mysterious. You could trigger it with Knowledge's Power. Marie Lambeau can take an additional action if she plays this. Prescient, Robes of Endless Night and Shining Trapezohedron can make it, you can play it for less. I think Robes of Night, it's -1, and I can't remember Shining Trapezohedron what it is, but it's also a cost discount, as well as Uncage the Soul. And of course, you can search your deck for it with Word of Command. Now, I think the effect itself is a little too random. If there's just a bag of tokens, and a random bag of tokens, and you're just pull and hope for the best, then I'm not super psyched about that, because you may want to deal damage, and then you end up pulling the heal. You say you want to deal damage, and you need a cursed or auto fail token, and you pull the blessed token or the Elder Signs token instead to heal. That's not ideal. So I think this card is really going to be intended for decks that really focus on packing the bag with one with either blessed or cursed tokens, but not really mixing the two. And I think based on what I've seen so far, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole blessed and cursed token business. We haven't got our hands on the Innsmouth Conspiracy yet, so it's a little difficult to say how it's going to work out in practice. But I get the feeling that based on the information they released in the preview article, that certain classes will specialize in certain tokens. Seekers and Rogues, for example, are specialized in the cursed token. So if you are an investigator who picks up this card, if you're a Seeker or a Rogue who picks up this card, then you are going to be primarily using it for damage, because your goal is to be stacking the Chaos Bag with cursed and with cursed tokens, so that when you do start revealing tokens, you know you're going to get a cursed token and deal damage. Meanwhile, Guardians and Survivors, they tend to focus on the blessed token. Guardians have a ton of ways to add blessed tokens to the bag, while Survivors also have several cards that add blessed tokens, so they will be using this card to heal damage from investigators and allies at their location. Mystics are sort of in the middle. I get the feeling that they can use they could use blessed or cursed tokens depending on the build of the deck. So if you're playing, you could end up playing, say, a Marie Lambeau build that really goes all in on the cursed token mechanic, in which case you would be using this card to deal damage. Or you might, there are cards that allow you to swap all the cursed tokens with blessed tokens, in which case you could use this as a healing card. So it's nice that it gives you the option of dealing damage and or healing an ally without taking an attack of opportunity. That's really, really good. Testless damage is always nice. Healing is slightly less important, I think, than dealing damage, but it's nice to have that option. Now, the other thing worth noting is that it is an event, so you can place it underneath Safina Rousseau and copy it with the Painted World. Now, Safina has access. She is a rogue, and rogues go all in on the cursed mechanic. I'm thinking primarily of Faustian Bargain from the Innsmouth Conspiracy, so which I think adds 2 cursed tokens to the bag. So Safina could get quite a bit of mileage out of this, using it to deal damage if she goes all in on that curse mechanic and has this stacked underneath her. She could play it several times to deal damage to and just simply take out some of the weaker enemies that she encounters. It's also an event, which means Luke Robinson may play it as if he was at a connecting location. So if an enemy is at a connecting location, Luke Robinson could play this. Depending if he's gone all in on cursed, he could use it to deal the damage, or he could use it to heal an ally or investigator that's next to him, which is, I think that is an ability that we don't really have, the ability to heal investigators and allies at other locations. So that's an interesting thing that Luke might be able to pull off. And finally, it is an event, so Wendy Adams can play it from her discard pile with Wendy's Amulet. Since Wendy is a survivor, I would expect her to probably use it to heal. Actually, Wendy's quite an interesting investigator because she's both a survivor, which would lend itself to the healing aspect of the card, but she's also a rogue, which lends itself to the damage part of the card. So who knows? Maybe this is a Wendy card in the making. We shall see once these expansions are released. So overall, I think this is I'm looking forward to this card. I think it will be quite good if you're going all in on one or the other. I'm not sure how well this card is going to work in multiplayer, especially if you've got people, say you've got a guardian and a rogue and somebody else sitting at the table, and the bag is just a huge mishmash of cursed, blessed, and regular tokens. I'm not too sure how this card will fare, considering that I think most of the time, if you want to deal damage with it, if that's your goal, then that's what you're going to use it for. The healing is kind of like, well, I didn't really plan on healing you, but since I pulled this token, I guess I will. That's not, if I'm fighting an enemy, I definitely want to hit it, not end up pulling the wrong token. So could be a bit of a problem in multiplayer, especially if the bag is just a jumble of random tokens. And that's the thing that I don't have a good handle on yet, is what the chaos. I mean, I know what it will look like in solo most of the time, because I'm the one putting the tokens in the bag. But if you're sitting down with a bunch of people to play, God only knows what tokens will be in the bag when you play this thing. So we shall see how this all shakes down in the weeks and months to come. The other card spoiled was a survivor card. It is Third Time's a Charm. It is a 1-cost event that costs 2 experience points. It has willpower, combat, and agility skill icons. It has the survivor and it has the spirit trait, It is fast, and you play when a skill test at your location begins. Twice during this test, when an investigator reveals a chaos token, they may cancel it, return it to the chaos bag, and reveal a new chaos token. So it is kind of like a Wendy-like effect, but you get to do it twice per turn, or twice during a test, sorry. So there are quite a few investigators who can play it, all of the survivors, plus the off-class survivors such as Agnes Baker, Minty Fan, Preston Fairmont, and Tommy Muldoon. All of those investigators can purchase it. Now, the first thing you can do with this card is that you can use it to cancel negative tokens twice per test. So say you draw the -4, or you draw one of the special tokens and you just don't like it. You can cancel that, and then if you draw another one, you can cancel that one too, and sort of wait until you get a token that you like. So that's pretty good, but it could be extremely important, especially with curse tokens being in the bag. Curse tokens are extremely bad news because they almost... it's not a guaranteed auto fail if you pull a curse token, but the odds of you failing really skyrocket dramatically if you do pull one. And this does give you a way to avoid them. So if you're playing an investigator like Minte Fan or Preston Fairmont, who are seekers and rogues respectively, who can go all in on the cursed token mechanic, having a card like this in their toolbox would be very helpful, because then they could mitigate some of those curse tokens that they've added to the bag. So that would be quite helpful, especially again in multiplayer. If somebody at the table has gone all in on curse tokens and you don't want to draw them, then this gives you the option to, if you draw a curse token, you're like, nah, forget it, throw it back, try again, see if you can't get a better token. Now, alternatively, you can use this card in a proactive manner. An investigator could use it to fish for blessed or cursed tokens, or the elder sign for that matter, depending on their build, to trigger other effects. Now, there are several cards that have been released that get better, depending whether you draw a blessed or cursed token. So, for example, Agnes Baker could use this to fish for a cursed token to trigger Eye of Chaos from In Too Deep. Eye of Chaos gives you a bonus if you reveal a curse token during the skill test. So if you really want that effect to trigger, Agnes can play third time's a charm and pull tokens until she gets a curse token, and so she can trigger that effect. Tommy Muldoon could do a similar thing, hunting for blessed tokens or an elder sign, say, to trigger the 35 Winchester from Dark Side of the Moon. It's not a fantastic card, but if you do pull a 0 or an elder sign, you can, if a 0 or an elder sign is revealed, you can get +1 damage from it. So Tommy could fish for tokens for that, or he could use the Blessed Blade from the Innsmouth Conspiracy, which gets better if you trigger a blessed token. So if you want to avoid a particular token, third time's a charm is quite good. If you want a particular token, then third time's the charm will let you search for that token. So I quite like this. I quite like this design. You can use it both to prevent yourself from failing tests, but also you can use it proactively to try to trigger effects on your other cards in play. We've seen a bunch of those cards released in this preview, and I am sure that as we see the other 4 Mythos packs for the Innsmouth Conspiracy, that there will be many more cards that have effects that trigger whether you draw a blessed or cursed token, and this is a good way for survivors and off-class survivors to use those effects. So a good card here if you're looking for those particular tokens, or even if you just want to avoid some. Next up is Radiant Smite. Speaking of cards that go all in on blessed tokens, This is a 1-cost event. It has the willpower and combat skill icons, the spell, spirit, and blessed traits. It has the action fight. You may use willpower instead of combat for this attack. When you initiate this attack, search the Chaos Bag for up to 3 blessed tokens and seal them here. For each blessed token sealed on Radiant Smite, you get +1 skill value and deal +1 damage for this attack. If this attack defeats the attacked enemy, return the sealed tokens to the token pool. Otherwise, release them. I just need to take a drink here, man. So this is a fascinating card. Guardians, off-class Guardians. Father Mateo can take this. Father Mateo is going to be a very interesting investigator to play once the Innsmouth Conspiracy campaign gets rolling, because this is a blessed card, and I believe all three of, at least 3 of the Guardian cards in Innsmouth Conspiracy are blessed cards, and several of the Survivor cards are blessed cards as well. So suddenly, Father Mateo's deck building options are expanding rapidly in this upcoming campaign. Calvin Wright can also purchase this because it has the spirit trait. So if you're playing someone like Sister Mary or Father Mateo, who can, and potentially Calvin Wright, who can also add, if you can get enough blessed tokens into the bag, you can have 7 willpower and deal 4 damage if you can seal all 3 blessed tokens on this card. Calvin can be a little bit better at 8. Of course, Sister Mary has access to all of the mystic cards that can boost her willpower too, as does Father Mateo. So you could actually boost your willpower quite high with this card and with some of the other passive boosts that Sister Mary and Father Mateo have available to them. And 4 damage is excellent. There are quite a few 3 damage enemies in this game, which it's always nice to take those out in one shot. And this is also valuable against those 4 health enemies, like the Yithian Observer from the core set. That if it hits the table, dealing 3 damage to it's just not enough. You need that 4th damage, and you can certainly do that with Radiant Smite. Of course, you do need to seal 3 blessed tokens in order to make this card work for you, but investigators like Sister Mary, Tommy Muldoon, and Father Mateo can add a bunch of blessed tokens to the bag using cards like Blessed Blade, Rite of Sanctification, and Hand of Fate from the Innsmouth Conspiracy Deluxe expansion, while survivors have the option of using Token of Faith or Predestined to take some curse tokens out of the bag and then add some blessed tokens in there to boot. So I think this is definitely, Guardians seem to have the easiest time of adding blessed tokens to the bag from what I can see. So this is definitely a blessed card, although it does have the spell trait. So of course, Marie Lambeau can also play it, and it synergizes with all of those mystic cards that she has available. So say you can play it cheap, you can fetch it with Arcane Initiate, you can drop this on, there's some sort of Marie Lambeau build where you play this on Diana Esperance, and you can just fire this event off several times per game. You can fetch it from your discard pile with Divermis Mysteris and whatnot. So there's a lot of interesting options if you for Father Mateo and Marie Lambeau as well, if you use this card. And the nice thing is, I think the really good thing about this card is that the blessed tokens are returned to the Chaos Bag unless the attack defeats the enemy. So if you happen to pull an auto fail and miss, the tokens are all those blessed tokens simply go back into the bag. If you don't defeat the enemy, say the enemy has 5 health, or it's a boss, say the terror of Devil Reef with 9 or 18 health, depending on how many players, you deal 4 damage, and those blessed tokens go back into the bag. So if you've got another copy of Radiant Smite in your hand, bang, you fire off a second one. There you've dealt 8 damage to the thing, and you get those 3 blessed tokens back into the bag to keep on going. So that's awesome. Any way that you can keep those blessed tokens in the bag is great, because if you're drawing the blessed tokens, you typically would have to remove them, but in this case you don't. So I could see this. I mean, if you're fighting that terror of Devil Reef, you could fire off 2 of these, deal 8 damage, and then you'd still have 3 blessed tokens in the bag when you went in for the final attack. Sweet. Because then, say you pull one of those tokens, you're already at +2, and then as long as you've committed, if you're slightly above, say if you're 2 up before you pull from the Chaos bag, that blessed token almost guarantees that you will succeed. So the terror might meet its end at 1 or 2 Radiant Smites here coming up in the future. So I really like this card. Really like the how this deluxe expansion and campaign are opening up some new options for Father Mateo, so he just doesn't have to stick to the Mystic cards like he has been. So looking forward to doing a bunch of different builds with him, and yeah, this card's really good. I like it. Lots of interesting things that you can do with this one. Finally, we have the Gaze of Arash, I believe. I don't know how to pronounce Arash. Maybe it is Arash. It is a 2-cost event, 2 experience points, combat and agility skill icons. Again, the spell trait, so it synergizes with all of those great Mystic cards. Cursed trait, which we don't see that often. I'm not sure there are any cards that currently use the cursed trait, but never say never. It has the game text. Reveal 7 random chaos tokens from the chaos bag. Deal a total of 1 damage plus 1 additional damage for each cursed or auto-fail token revealed. Divided as you choose among enemies at your location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So this card is an option for most Seekers. Of course, Norman can't take it. And most off-class Seekers, including Trish Scarborough, the Rogue Investigator, who will be released in the Innsmouth Conspiracy expansion, as well as Luke Robinson. And, of course, it is a spell, so Marie Lambeau can take it. It's I already mentioned that it is a spell event, so it synergizes with all those great Mystic cards. So you can play it for cheaper. You can play Knowledge is Power to trigger this from your hand multiple times per game. You can play it for cheap with Uncage the Soul. You can search for it with Word of Command. Lots of great options there. Knowledge is Power is one of those cards that just gets better and better with each card that is released. You just need to look at the Necronomicon from Harvey Walters' starter deck for an example of how abusive Knowledge is Power can get. As for Gaze of Arash, it is only one of a handful of cards in the game that enable you to deal damage to multiple enemies at your location. So it has a sort of Storm of Spirits effect that isn't that common. There aren't that many cards that let you do this. So that is worth taking note of. So you can wipe out, theoretically, you could wipe out several enemies at once with this. Now, again, theoretically, you can deal a total of 8 damage with this card, which is massive. I mean, I can't think of another card offhand that you can deal that much damage with one card. Certainly in the Seeker card pool, even I'm not sure what the new I've Got a Plan does. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's not 8 damage. Unfortunately, the damage is random. So you're just pulling 7 random tokens from the bag, and you get 1 damage for each +1. So again, theoretically, you could pull 7 tokens and get 1 damage. So That's the only thing I really don't like about this card, is that it's very difficult to predict. At least right now, not having having had a chance to play with the blessed and cursed token mechanics, how many cursed tokens you can expect to be in the bag, and then from there figuring out what kind of odds you have of pulling those tokens. So this can be from anywhere from 1 damage to 1 damage to 8 damage. So it's either going to be spectacular or it's just going to fall flat. And depending on what you're facing, personally, I like a little bit more of a guaranteed. I'd rather settle for 4 than go for gusto and swing for 8. But who knows? I mean, maybe if you're a seeker who can just fill the deck, fill the chaos bag with curse tokens, you can only have a maximum of 10 in there. But if you've got a way to do that, then this card is going to be very good. You do need to pull curse tokens, which certainly favors the Seeker and Rogue investigators. Seekers have the new, is it Cryptic Grimoire in the Innsmouth Conspiracy that lets them add curse tokens, and Rogues have Faustian Bargain, which lets them add curse tokens. So an investigator like Triss Scarborough, who this may be her on the card, I'm not sure. She can dip into both of those card pools and fill the bag with curse tokens to fire this thing off. So it is, I think, for maybe Marie can also use it, since they do have ways. She does have ways of getting curse tokens as well. Although she does have access to some Seeker cards as well. So maybe Marie can also pack the bag with curse tokens. But yeah, unless you can really stack the bag with curse tokens, this card is not going to do very much for you. And of course, because it is an event, Luke Robinson may play it as if he was at a connecting location. So he's already got access to Storm of Spirits. This gives him another option if he wants to go all in on area of effect damage and curse tokens. You could play this and Storm of Spirits, and he could play them from a connecting location and just annihilate everything and he can play it from his little hidey hole in the Dreamlands as well. So lots of damage potential there for Luke if he wants to go with that sort of build. So overall, I mean, the damage, what can you say? I mean, 8 damage is massive, but we'll just have to wait and see whether pulling that many curse tokens is likely. That is what it all depends on. So we are, I believe we're at the end. We are at the end. This has been a preview of the Devil Reef Mythos pack. Really, man, every time FFG releases a new preview for this cycle, I get more and more excited. The Innsmouth Conspiracy, we don't know a great deal about the scenarios in that one, but I do. I mean, the Innsmouth setting has been one that players have wanted to visit for quite some time. The Into Deep Mythos pack looks really great. Really like the look of that scenario, and this one looks like it's going to be a great deal of fun too. The player cards in this all seem really, really good. And for it, not just really good for, 1 or 2 particular investigators, but there are a bunch of investigators who can play a lot of these cards, which I think is great in terms of deck building. So I think as we see more and more effects that involve the blessed and cursed token mechanics, I'm starting to get a better feel for how they're going to work out. It seems pretty clear that, I mean, if you're playing a Guardian or Survivor, blessed tokens are your friend. If you're playing a Seeker or Rogue, the curse tokens are really what you want to lean into. And then it will just be a matter of finding ways, finding those cards like Third Time's a Charm that let you really leverage those tokens to trigger effects on the cards in play. So all in all, I am excited about Devil Reef. Again, it is also our first scenario with a vehicle, and there will be more coming later this campaign. So this will give our first taste of it, and hopefully it will be something that will be around for many scenarios to come, because vehicle chases and just vehicles are a staple of both the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game and many of the investigators have a great deal of affinity for vehicles as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that all works out. I am going to wrap it up here. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned on Friday. I believe it will be Friday. I will be back with spoilers from the Innsmouth Conspiracy. We are going to take a look at a bunch of cards from the upcoming deluxe expansion. Very excited to share those with you. I hope that you will return for that. And until next time, I hope that you have a fantastic day, and can't wait to get my hands on the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromling@gmail.com. I am also on Twitter at manfromling. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your other sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.